What an interesting press conference, and it made me even more curious about the upcoming days. I think this was a wonderful first act on our conference of the World Council of Religious Leaders on Faith and Diplomacy, Generations in Dialogue, which is organized by Religions for Peace and hosted by Ring for Peace.
In this sense, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our friends from Lindau. Welcome to our brand new studio, and welcome to the Religions for Peace conference, where generations and religions are going to exchange on various topics and relevant issues, particularly on the perspective of faith and diplomacy, issues such as peace, security, the environment, humanitarianism, and many more.
My name is Mina, and it is my honor and pleasure to introduce you to a conference co-host, Renz Argao, amazing young person from the Philippines who have done tremendous interfaith work in the Philippines, but also internationally. And he's also the coordinator of the International Youth Committee of Religions for Peace. And let me tell you a little secret about him. He just got his PhD.
You're flattering me, Amina. But let me share with you also that Amina is also doing a lot of amazing work in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where she is a program officer of Youth for Peace and a member also of the International Youth Committee of Religions for Peace.
So together, we are your conference host, and we will be leading you through the program, and we are looking forward to that so much. So we will be broadcasting from the studio always in between the main program. And the main program is happening just in the main hall of the Inselhalle, a couple of meters from here. So stay tuned for various case studies, for engaging interviews, also 2 press talks, but also our content collaboration with Youth Media Team and many other events and initiatives that we will be screening. So make sure to stay in the stream all the time. But Renz, tell our audience where we are and what they expect in the upcoming days of the conference.
With pleasure. For the third time, Lindau and the Ring for Peace team are hosting Religions for Peace for a conference. This year, we actually have 150 people gathered physically and participating here at the Inselhalle. But we also have many hundreds more participating with us, streaming the conference virtually and globally. So, Amina, would you like to tell our participants a bit regarding our online setup?
Oh, I'd love to. So the link below brings you to our event page. This event page gives you much more functionalities than the plain stream, for example, on Facebook. So we really urge you not to miss it. There is a social media wall there, greeting platform, but also virtual foyer, which will help you to exchange with other participants virtually. But also we have a video library for you. In this video library, almost all the contents that will be produced during the conference can be rewatched. But Renz, shall we move from this administration to content?
Of course. And actually, Amina, we have partnered with the youth media team for many of the contents that we will be presenting, especially during the break time and in between the conferences happening in the main hall. They actually have prepared a lot of videos, including questions and expectations that the youth has for this conference. So let's go with our first content piece.
Hello, I'm Agathe. I'm interested to learn on how religious leaders are dealing with the 2 major global crises we are facing currently, the climate crisis and the global health crisis posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, off to Myanmar. What about you, Ted?
Thank you, Agathe. For me, I'm really interested in conference things, and I wanted to know how the youth can be working together with religious leaders for peace, security, and humanitarianism. So let's hear from Faith, who's coming from Kenya.
The opportunity to participate in an intergenerational dialogue that brings together world religious leaders, women and youth, sitting together with global policy shapers and leaders like the United Nations and the World Health Organization to discuss issues around defeating a global pandemic like the COVID-19 fills me with so much joy and anticipation and inspiration about this conference. Let's hear from Jesslyn all the way from Jakarta, Indonesia. What are your thoughts, JJ?
Thanks, Phil. So, as for me, I'm really looking forward to know how technology can play part in the peace building activities and how the youth and senior leaders can collaborate together to make a great program. So now off to Germany. Lydia, what's your thought about it?
I'm looking for inspiration on how our faith can be helpful in dealing with conflict non-violently, globally and locally, and also how we can work together with other actors to implement necessary steps that our planet stays livable for everyone also in the future. How about you in Indonesia, Abdul?
Oh, thank you, Linda. I wish through this conference we could learn a lot of best experiences from the participants who are also came from the various backgrounds and countries that may help us to strengthening our commitment on peace building. So now let's off to South Africa. How about you, Marilyn?
Thanks, Abdil. So, my question would be that one of the themes at the conference is on the environment. And so, what are religious leaders doing in collaboration with the youth to build an intergenerational and a multi-religious collaboration to save our environment? So, let's hear what Jiang in Philippines has to say.
Since there are sensitive issues about wars and conflicts that the youth are not actively given a voice in, I want to know how the younger generation can help the older generation in terms of achieving peace and security. Now lastly, from Brazil, what are your thoughts, Anna?
During Generations in Dialogue conference, I expect to learn more about how to mobilize and engage generations for social change. And I hope to see you there.
Dear leaders, you have heard the different questions that the youth media team, who are representing now our younger generation, that they want to have answered. So please remember these questions, especially during your panel discussions. And of course, here in the studio, we are also looking forward to your participation in the online dialogue in our platform. So you can always use our conversation, join our conversations using our hashtags, Generations in Dialogue, and hashtag Faith and Diplomacy. So if you have any questions, especially for our guest here in the studio, please use the hashtag and we'll regularly check that in order to include your questions in our interviews with our guests. At this point, we were supposed to have Mr. Philber Aganyo for our interview. However, our youth media team are very busy with the content that they're preparing for all of us. So we'll be right back after this break. And as you have seen, we have many questions that actually need to be answered. And as promised, we have Mr. Philber Aganyo, the youth media team leader, who is here with us today. So Philber, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to be here with you.
Yeah, and since you're leading the youth media team, would you like to tell us a bit more about what the youth media team does and what inspired you to produce this video?
Oh, thank you so much. You may be aware the youth media team is a team of young people from across the globe that came together, rather assembled together in the run-up, in the lead-up to the 10th World Assembly of the Religions for Peace, which happened coincidentally here at the same venue. And so these are young people who were taken through a rigorous training, through a partnership by the Religions for Peace and the Deutsche Welle Academy. And the purpose for them was to support in amplifying the work of the Religions for Peace together with all its partners, including Ring for Peace, across the globe, reporting in a youthful way because, of course, you know, the young people, the population of young people across the globe is quite massive. Thank you.
And thank you. You have been very supportive of the work of the International Youth Committee as well.
Thank you.
You've been working a lot with regards to our youth network in Kenya.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us a bit about how intergenerational dialogue also happens in Kenya?
Oh, thank you so much. Kenya, I would say, I don't want to be misquoted, but I would say Kenya has been like a war zone for some time. A war zone to mean the young people versus the elders. There has been some sort of ideological conflict where the young people believe that the old people or the elderly, their elders, do not really understand them. Yet the elders also have a fear that young people are becoming so many. They are so versatile. They're full of energy. They are innovative, and so there has been some kind of a class generational warfare. But that is significantly decreasing because of the embracing of the intergenerational dialogues that have come. So Kenya has been a war zone for some time, but I'm glad that there is progress that is being made. Yes.
Happy to hear that a lot is being done now, especially on this area.
Thank you.
Well, just last question for now. You'll be moderating a panel later on faith diplomacy and public health.
Thank you.
What are you looking forward to for this panel?
Thank you so much. It was very interesting to see that some of the top policymakers in the health sector are going to be part of the panel. But I'll be looking at how the religious leaders can partner with the health, with traditional diplomats to amplify the work that is being done by the religious leaders, for example. Now that we have a global pandemic, the COVID-19 situation, which has engulfed the entire globe, I'd be looking particularly to understand what more can be done by the religious leaders in partnership with the policymakers so that solutions can be made and so that even pandemics like this, we do not know whether this is the last one, should there be any other that is coming in the near future, we can be prepared to bring support and help for the same. Thank you.
I agree that preparedness really is very important, especially now as we are possibly going to face more pandemics.
Very true.
We're looking very much towards that panel that you'll be moderating. And thank you for joining us today, Phil.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, it's almost 1:30. It was a short interview, but time flies fast in here. We are now very close to the opening ceremony. And I think Mina is actually in the main hall to join us and to introduce to us the main hall and the opening ceremony. So let's check whether we are already ready to surprise her. Mina is actually preparing in the main hall now, and there are a lot of people that you would be seeing and meeting in the main hall. We're all excited for this conference. And oh, there you are. Hi, Mina, how are you?
And I'm here.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
How is the main hall?
It's amazing. It's full of people, which is completely different from all the events that we had in the last 2 years because we couldn't gather in person. So it's really nice to be among the people here, and it's really nice to be able to be in person, with all these leaders from around the world. So we are almost ready to start the conference. We are ready to kick off. We are just waiting for Professor Karam to join us, to come to the stage, and to actually open the conference. I think we will be ready in a few seconds.
Amina,
we are still getting prepared.
Amina, can I ask you while we're waiting?
Yes, of course.
Is there anyone there that you'd really be excited to meet?
Well, I'm really, really excited actually to meet all of these people, because I didn't have the chance to see them in almost 2 years. And I'm sure most of the people here are very excited to meet each other because, they know each other for a long time and they were not able to see each other, so they were just doing virtual conferences. And I think this is an amazing opportunity for all of us to see each other again.
I think people are wondering now, since we are in the middle of a pandemic, what have we done to ensure the safety of everyone here at the Insulhale?
Of course, friends, as you said, all the measures are taken into consideration. There are enough space in between the people. Everybody is wearing a mask. I'm not doing it because, of course, I'm on a safe distance from everybody. And everything else is in place. All the people are vaccinated and, everything is in place. So I'm sure that the conference will be a success.
That's good to hear. And actually, as mentioned by Amina, all the participants here at the Insulhale and even the team and the staff here are fully vaccinated. So we are, of course, we know that we are safe, especially during this pandemic. But it's really interesting that we're having this hybrid format. What are you looking forward to this, Amina?
Actually, Rent, I think I will now hand over to Professor Karam because we are ready to start the conference. So I will invite Professor Karam, who is Secretary General of Religions for Peace, to join me here at the stage and to open the conference.
Thank you very much, Mina.
Oh, so thank you very much, Professor Karam. This was a very nice kickoff of the conference. But now in our studio, we have another guest. We have our dear Miriam de Souza. She's an IYC member, International Youth Committee of Religions for Peace, but she's also engaged in the Ghana Organizations of Religions for Peace. And this is for her the first time to be in Lindau. So Miriam, can you share some first impressions with us of the Lindau?
I love Lindau, especially the food, and I love everything I heard about Lindau, and I'm great. It's so great to be here. The place is so serene. I love the people, and I love that pasta. I'm yet to get the name. I can't wait to finish it all.
Well, it's good to know that you're enjoying your stay here in Lindau. Yeah. But of course, the reason why we're here is this assembly, or this conference. So what do you expect to get out of this conference?
Well, with the theme Generations and Dialogue, I believe that our generation is quite different from the older generation. But one thing that we can never undermine is their knowledge, talent, and skills they carry with them. We must always be around them to learn all that if we want to take that big step to get to where they are. We must not always let them know that we always come to them for information, but because we value their knowledge and what they have, and we want to also take on that to be able to move ahead. This opportunity, this conference presents, I believe it's a give and take scenario. We are here to show the elderly that, hey, we are here, we can do it. Just give us the opportunity to see that when you are not there, we can fit in. And I'm so happy that we are here today.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And that actually leads me to the second question. So how did you actually experience the interreligious collaboration in your work in Ghana as a catalyst for change and progress?
Intergenerational dialogue is very key and vital in Ghana. A typical example, I would say, is in Ghana, governments value interreligious collaboration. If you want to push for something, if you want to push an agenda, if you go alone, you can do little. But when Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Muslims, traditionalists, they all come together, the government hears us and things are done quickly. And in my organization, we are so happy we are able to collaborate with people, with everyone. We have been able to promote religious tolerance and coexist with one another. Yeah.
Well, hearing from all the work that you've been doing, do you have any tips for our fellow youth who are watching us today on how they could connect better with the more experienced or more mature generation?
You can agree with me that there's a gap between the older generation and the younger generation, and the only way we can do that is to first of all respect them. Like I said, we must not let them know that we always come to them for information, but we don't value them. Let's sit with them, talk with them, and let them share their experiences. They grew with it, and we are not yet there. And when they tell us, when they share their experiences with us, we'll be able to learn more and to move ahead. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I hope that many youth are actually listening to us and they are grasping, all that experiences that you have. So I'm really glad to hear that. And that leads me to one more question. You will be moderating a session on interreligious dialogue and peace building on Tuesday. So what do you expect from it?
Well, the topic for that session is building peace through interreligious collaborations, challenges, and opportunities. And the aim is to better identify and appreciate the value of multi-religious collaborations. What we seek to get from that session is for us to advance peace, to be able to coexist come together as one another to be able to build lasting conditions for peace. Thank you.
That's wonderful. I mean, so inspiring.
welcome.
At this point, do you have any message for the young people out there who are very inspired by the work that you're doing?
Yes. If you want to be able to get to where I am, to get to where we are, you need to respect one another, respect the older generation, and respect all religion, because I believe they all have a unique approach to how we can solve the problems in the world. Yeah.
Well, I think respect really is a very important point in what you have shared with us, right, Amina?
I absolutely agree with your ends. I mean, without respect, we will go nowhere. And without respect between the generations, we will go nowhere. So it's important to have seniors and younger ones to actually speak to each other and hear each other and, consider each other as real partners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think let's not forget that the main point of this conference actually is to allow that respect among the generations to lead into concrete actions that could help us solve the problems that we are facing now, right?
So it was so good to have you as a youth voice here.
Thank you for having me.
To speak to you, to have such a prominent leader coming from Ghana, coming from the International Youth Committee of Religions for Peace, and we are really proud to have you. So thank you again for coming with us.
Thank you, Mina. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you so much, Miriam. We really learned a lot from you here, and I hope that you enjoy your stay here at Lindau.
Thank you.
So now, you know that you could actually submit your greeting videos to our platform. So we would actually like to feature some of the greeting videos, and maybe you will see some of your videos here live in the studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to show you the greeting platform of the Conference of the World Council of Religious Leaders on Faith and Diplomacy. You can find the greeting platform on the landing page gid2021.ringforpeace.org if you click on the button in the sidebar on the right-hand side. After clicking it, you will be transferred to a page that leads you through the different steps until you can record your personal video. By clicking on Start, the process begins. Fill in your name and email address, choose your country, and click the boxes to agree to the data protection policy. On the next site, you can choose one of the following beginnings for your greeting talk. I'm sending greetings to the world from my religion means to me. Intergenerational dialogue is important because faith and diplomacy must work closely together because religions for peace means to me. If you choose one, on the next slide you will be guided through the recording process to work on your video. After you have finished the record, the video will be uploaded and the link with your video will be sent to your email address. Maybe your video will be shown at the conference host studio of the Assembly. Good luck and thank you.
Hello. Can you help me with my...
Greetings. So now it's time to actually introduce you to another format that will accompany us during our sessions, and those are case studies. We prepared 5 different case studies for you, and each of these case studies will actually be focusing on one of the interreligious councils, national interreligious councils, that are part of the Religions for Peace. The idea behind that is to showcase the work that Religions for Peace does in order to positively impact the world from the perspective of the topics of this assembly. So we will be speaking from the environmental, peace building, intergenerational, interreligious, but also humanitarian perspective. So our first case study is focusing on Uganda. The IRC in Uganda has played a pivotal role in fighting against the HIV virus. They also established a trustful relationship to the government, and they have established a modern structure including women and the youth. I have the pleasure to introduce to you the Secretary General of the IRC of Uganda, Mr. Joshua Kitakule. So, Mr. Kitakule, a warm welcome to our studio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, please take the mic. So, thank you again for coming.
Thank you for having me here.
So, Mr. Kitakule, I just introduced your case study, and we are very proud to have you here with us, and we are very proud that we are going to be able to speak to you and that you will be able to tell us more about it.
Thank you again.
So, IRC Uganda has increased a gender ratio to include more women and youth in their activities. How did this change the dynamics of the IRC in Uganda?
One of the things that we discovered was that we had more women at the worship centers, the churches and the mosques. Unfortunately, the women were not effectively being engaged at governance level. They were not at the decision-making table. So one of the decisions that the council presidents or the board of governors decided is that we need to institutionalize the role of women so that we can include them at the point where they're able to influence decisions in the process, in all the activities that we actually do at the Interreligious Council of Uganda. And one of the things that we have now discovered is that because of that inclusion, you have more women meaningfully participating in all our activities, in issues of gender, in issues of youth building, in issues of peace building, issues of health. And so we are grateful that we were able to include the women, to institutionalize the women in all the things that we do at the Interreligious Council of Uganda.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us, and I hope that the other people are listening to us and they will grasp something from you and actually implement it also in their organizations.
I hope so.
Because we really need more women and youth inclusion, and I think you did an amazing job with that. So thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
But that leads me to another question. So how can actually these close relationships that you created with the government can foster peace building, but also humanitarianism? And based on your experience that you had with the IRC in Uganda, how can we achieve this?
One of the things we discovered in our work, especially working on the conflict in northern Uganda, the conflict of the Lord Resistance Army, was that actually it's the duty of government to ensure that we have peace, that people have peace. And so if you want to work for sustainable peace, then you need to be working with the government to influence policy, to influence all those actions that ensure that there is peace for everybody, that there is peace in the country. And so while working with government, we were able to influence many things. And one of them, for example, to talk peace with the rebel leaders, to provide amnesty to those leaders who are willing to come out, but also to increase humanitarian assistance to the people that were suffering in the internally displaced camps. And so we thought it's a good idea that if you're working on issues of peace, on issues of conflict, the only way to ensure sustainability is to actually work with the government, because it is then easy for you to influence. It is easy to make sure that government, but also to increase trust. The government needs to trust you, especially in the actions that religious leaders do. Sometimes there is suspicion. But you working with the government actually reduces that suspicion, builds trust and confidence in what you do. That's what we have achieved, closely working with government on most of these peace processes in Uganda.
Thank you for sharing that. So definitely trust is something which is very important, and we cannot work on our own. So not governments on their own, not religious institutions.
And it's actually a collective effort.
Yeah.
Peace building is a collective effort. It's not just for religious actors, not just for government, but a collective effort. It's for all of us to participate and build.
Definitely, and I think that is one of the things that Religions for Peace always insists, these multi-stakeholder partnerships. Government, youth, women, religious leaders, all civil society actors, so all the institutions. And you basically did it in Uganda, so this is an amazing example that many, probably IRCs and many organizations can learn from you. So I just hope that they are listening to us and they are grasping from your experience.
Thank you very much.
But also, we know that Uganda played a key role in alleviating AIDS or HIV pandemic there. So how did you achieve that, and how did you do that?
We still do.
Okay.
And recently we're working on a new action plan for religious leaders, because we discovered that what we did 20 years ago is now becoming a problem, because the prevalence rate is stagnant at 6.2. At that time, the religious leaders were able to reduce it from 18% to 7% by doing 2 or 3 things. The first one was to develop a common message on what needed to be done then. And the message was, HIV/AIDS kills. It has no cure. And we made sure that every Ugandan gets to know that HIV/AIDS kills and it has no cure. And they came up with a slogan of zero grazing, that you need only to graze within that space, you don't need to get out. It was meant for the marrieds, that when you have your partner, then you don't get out of that partner and go and do certain things outside your marriage, that you have to be faithful to your partner. But also for the young people, that you have to abstain until you get married. And so that was the message. So they need a lot of social mobilization to ensure that that message gets to the people. So that created fear. No cure, it kills. And also they changed some of the faith traditions. For example, before you got married, you had to test. So they brought in science, test, and we want to wed people that we are sure are safe, they're alive. And so that message was a message that actually reduced, but together with other partners. I cannot say that they did that alone. There was a lot of goodwill from government. Our president was very open about HIV and AIDS, created spaces for engagement, and actually brought religious leaders to read as leaders of most of these national strategies. And that's the reason why we were able to reduce HIV and AIDS. But apparently, there's still a challenge because of complacence, because now you have ARVs, and people look good when they're on ARVs. And so we need to do more, because we think that the prevalence rate is stagnant at 6.2, and we've discovered that more young people are actually getting HIV/AIDS. About 3.3% of our young people actually get HIV/AIDS infection every week, which is a real challenge. And so we are working with the government so that we create more awareness, we engage, we create more safe spaces for young people to make sure that we reduce further this 6.2%, to make sure that by 2030, we completely eliminate HIV/AIDS, both in Uganda but also globally.
Wow, that's a tremendous work. So
Thank you.
You probably learned a lot from this work
We have.
and you said you worked like 20 years ago, so it's a really long time work, and you're still working on it. So
Yes.
it's not done, it's not finished.
Yeah.
So the efforts are actually continuing. But unfortunately, as we know, we are now in the pandemics of the COVID-19.
Yes.
So I have a question like, how could you profit from these learnings you made with the HIV virus to address the COVID-19 pandemic?
A huge challenge, because the COVID-19 is new, the knowledge is scattered, nobody is sure, so every day you keep getting new information about COVID-19. But one of the things that we've learned is that you have to create a common message that needs to be consistent. And so what we are doing is working together to agree that there is a problem here called COVID-19. It has rather than HIV and AIDS, this one has a cure,
Yes.
especially if you vaccinate. And so one of the things that we're actually doing is, can we pass on the message? Please make sure that you are following the SOPs, and make sure that you listen to what the government is saying, make sure you listen to what the Minister of Health is doing, stop certain things, social distance, put on your mask, but also reducing the services. For example, Philber opened the wash places just last week. And one of the things that we actually did is just to offer our wash places to government so that they can become vaccination centers. And so in just 1 week, government was able to use those centers at the wash places to vaccinate 7,000 Ugandans. Huge breakthrough, huge breakthrough. And we're using those spaces also to talk about vaccination hesitancy, so that people have information about vaccination. And so I think this is what we've been able to, but also to develop resource materials for our faith leaders to use during prayers, but also to educate communities about COVID-19 and how we can stop the spread of COVID-19.
Again, a lot of work that you did. And amazing, and you just mentioned like 7,000 people who got vaccinated. And
Just last week.
Just last week.
Yes,
like
using that strategy of putting vaccination centers at our workplaces.
That's amazing tip. So I hope that, again, people who are supposed to listen to us are listening and are actually taking these tips, and they will implement it also in their environments, because we are at the midst of the pandemic and we need as much as more vaccinated people.
Thank you.
So I'm really glad that you shared this with us. But I also have a question to you. I hope that you still have time to be here with us. About the multi-religious environment in Uganda. So did this help you actually to work on the public health pandemic?
Yes.
Did it help you somehow?
Because you see, before, each faith was involved in a small thing here and there. So the actions were very fragmented. And so the results were also fragmented. You could not touch the work of the religious leaders, especially in ensuring that we bring down the prevalence rate for HIV and AIDS. But coming together created a common platform for dialogue, for conversation on what were the causes of HIV and AIDS, for example, on what needed to be done together, a common voice, common action. And so we thought that coming together has been very beneficial in terms of reducing suspicion, minimizing conflict, and building trust and confidence among religious leaders. And by the way, this year, we will be celebrating 20 years of MultiReligious cooperation. So we really want to thank Religions for Peace for this initiative of helping religious leaders to come together to work on common action.
So first of all, congratulations on these 20 years of multi-religious collaboration.
Thank you very
This is something that we actually insist here, and this is why we are here together.
Thank you.
Today and during the whole of these days during the conference. And you are such a bright example, and I'm really grateful to have you here. So can you tell us, what shall other IRCs, religious leaders, and diplomats learn from the IRC Uganda?
I think that the thing they can learn, one, is that when religious leaders come together, they are respected, they are valued, they can be very strong in influencing policy. In my own country, we've been able to influence lots of policies because then the people trust us, we live with the people, so we become the voice of the voiceless. But because we are not speaking a different language, we speak the same language, then government respects us, and we're a credible body to actually work with. And as I speak now, we are like a government. Every little thing that government wants to be done, if they want that to be done, they have to go through the Interreligious Council of Uganda. So one of the things they need to learn, that this is a platform that is valued, that is respected by the people, and it's a platform for actually the people. The other thing they can actually learn is religious leaders live among people. And so they really understand the things that affect the people. And so when they bring out these issues, they bring out real issues that affect the common person. And so if you're going to help, then this is the vehicle that you actually need to use if you're going to help the common people.
So thank you very much for sharing all of these things with us. I hope we didn't take much of your time, but it was really valuable to talk to you. It was really good for us to learn about your experience on initiatives to support public health situation here, relying on diplomatic processes between faith leaders and the government. So this was an amazing conversation for me, and I hope that other people could learn also from you.
Thank you.
And thank you again for coming and being with us here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you.
So now we learned about the specific case of Uganda, but we are excited to hear about the upcoming panel. And the upcoming panel is about faith diplomacy and public health. And we are excited to hear what our speakers have to say about the topics that we just addressed with Mr. Kitakule. The moderator of the panel will be Mr. Philber Aganyo, and the speakers include His Excellency Mr. Filippo Grandi, Dr. Gilles Carbonnier, Dr. Vinu Aram, Bishop Margot Kiesman, Imam Mohammed Majid, and Dr. Ren Sargao, your conference host. So enjoy the show. Greetings and welcome to the studio, ladies and gentlemen. We showed you how to create your own greetings for Religions for Peace family and send us to our greeting platform. So now we are actually creating videos from the greeting platform.
Namaskar everyone, I am Shuman Barua. I am from Kolkata, India.
Hello everyone, I am Venerable Mukesh Barua, a Buddhist monk from Bangladesh.
Greetings from Interreligious Council of Albania. My name is Shelda.
Salam alaikum. I'm sending greetings to the world from Sufiland at Lake Constance.
Namaste, I'm Lakshmi Vyas.
My name is Nyasha Freeman Sikambesa. I'm from Southern Africa, Zimbabwe.
Welcome to the conference of the World Council of Religious Leaders and Faith and Diplomacy.
Spread love, harmony, dialogue, because the ways that bring us to the God are different.
Love the Creator for the sake of the Creator is what our tradition says, because we believe that in every creature there is hidden a secret of Allah Almighty.
Faith and diplomacy must always work together.
I pray from the bottom of my heart for all the great and grand success.
Peace in any part or corner of the world.
Together, we can bring this peace to this world.
And religious leaders and diplomats need to work together if we are to make any real changes. Thank you.
May God bless Religion for Peace organization. Thank you for giving the time. May God bless world. May God bless Pakistan. May God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
May peace prevail on earth. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I need to start first. So really use the greeting platform as an opportunity to greet people from all around the world and share with us what popped up on your mind during or due to the sessions. Also, feel free to ask questions for our upcoming guests in the studio via social media using our hashtags Generations in Dialogue, Faith and Diplomacy.
And as you might have realized by now, whenever we are in the couches, it means that we are having guests with us in the studio. So we are now joined by a very special guest without whom this whole event would not be possible. And we have here with us Ms. Irmgard Maria Fellner from the German Federal Foreign Office, which is a very generous supporter of Ring for Peace and Religions for Peace.
So, Ms. Irmgard Fellner, thank you very much for being here with us. And how was your first day at the conference?
Hello, everyone. So I'm very happy to be here. The first day of the conference is, of course, marked by encounters. And we were really happy to see so many colleagues and representatives of world religions that were here last time when we had the first conference in Lindau. And it was absolutely fascinating to see how their projects have been going on and how interaction has actually been already on a very special footing, because so many people had been meeting a lot before.
Thank you for that. And as we have mentioned in the introduction, the Federal Foreign Office has been a very generous supporter and a key pillar of Ring for Peace and Religions for Peace's work here. May we know, why does the Foreign Office support this initiative so intensively? And what does the Federal Foreign Office expect from this partnership? And of course, your own expectations.
The Federal Foreign Office is a supporter of interfaith dialogue, because in all religions you have one central element that is actually peace. Making peace is an obligation for almost every world religion, and we are very much interested because that's the core of diplomacy as well. So we have actually work to do hand in hand, and therefore we have learned that religious leaders are much more connected to civil society than politicians and civil servants. And so we can actually join our forces and try to bring about peace and work in the direction of peace together.
So thank you very much for sharing this insight with us. But you held various positions in the Federal Foreign Office around the globe. So do you have some story that you would like to share with us where religions and their impact on diverse levels have impacted your work?
Yes. Well, actually, I was very marked by a very special moment. After 9/11, I was posted in Washington, D.C. at the German embassy to the United States. And of course, 9/11 was a big blow to everyone, and everyone was totally destabilized. We had no information. I mean, in hindsight, it seems a lot clearer than it was at that time. But one thing was really very moving, that people from all religious denominations gathered and held a moment of silence, of prayer, and joined hands, helped each other out. And this was really something that was especially moving, but also at this moment actually reconforting, because people had absolutely no idea what was going on, what was looming around the corner. And it helped also to reassure people there is something bigger, and we can actually be assured that we respect each other, and independently of which religious faith we have, there is things that bind us together. And that has been a constant motto in my work. Meaning talking to religious leaders and also people who are not especially leaders but who work on the ground. They have so much insight to share with us. And we are really happy to be able to dialogue with them and also to help them in the way we can help, so that we can actually obtain things that we really stand for. Also working on the level of the United Nations, the SDGs that we really need to obtain. I mean, there are goals that are universal, and fighting for human rights and for education for everyone. That is something that religious leaders and faith-based communities and actors on the ground can actually help us.
Well, thank you for that. And I take note of what you mentioned about respecting one another.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So since we are now in the conference where generations are in dialogue, we're just curious, how does the Federal Foreign Office practice and foster intergenerational dialogue?
Yes, we have a lot of program lines, of course, and many project partners, and we actually ask our project partners to include elements of intergenerational aspects, because, of course, we need to also involve the next generation, because they are the leaders of tomorrow, and the earlier they get involved in projects, the better for the future. So many project partners do it from themselves, and some of them need to be given a hint, which we do very gladly.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. We are very happy to hear that you are including young people and having programs for young people, because as we know, today we are actually speaking about generations in dialogue. So thank you again for joining us here in the studio, for taking your time to also visit the conference in whole, and we really appreciate your commitment to Religions for Peace and Ring for Peace.
Thank you very much to all you're doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And so all of our friends who are watching now from the Americas, you may watch a video now that we will be showing to you to introduce to you a special feature in our platform that you can use as you participate and engage us in this dialogue. And of course, for those others who have been with us since this afternoon, you might not have discovered this feature yet, so please stay tuned to see how to use this platform.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the landing page of the Conference of the World Council of Religious Leaders on Faith and Diplomacy. Let me guide you through the landing page we built for this event real quick. If you click your registration link, you will get to the site gid2021.ringforpeace.org and see this graphic of the Inselhalle in Lindau. Some of you might recognize it from 2019. At the upper part of this website, you can find the menu that leads you to the sites Ring for Peace, Program, Speakers, Media Library, and the Social Wall. By clicking at the blue button, you can virtually enter the Inselhalle. This is the main location of the conference. Everything except the Ring for Peace ceremony will take place here. The colored circles stand for the different places in the Inselhalle. The purple one leads you to the round tables that will take place on Tuesday and Wednesday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. The blue button leads you to the main hall. That's where the main sessions take place. The green button points to the stairs to go downstairs. The catering, the meeting of the World Council, and 2 local diplomacy roundtables are located on the lower floor. Right next to it, you see the white circle that says foyer by swiping over it with your mouse. By clicking on it, you can enter the virtual foyer and have a talk with other people you will see and can recognize there. The yellow circle shows where the conference host studio is located. From here, our conference hosts will guide you through the conference and will provide useful information and interesting additional content. Now, if you look up to the menu, you get detailed information about the speakers and the program. By clicking on Media Library, you have the possibility to watch recorded sessions from the past. By clicking at Social Wall, you will be transferred to a site that shows you posts from social media that use the hashtags #Faith and Diplomacy or #Generations in Dialogue. Feel free to join the discussions via your social media accounts. The most important links are on the sidebar. On the right-hand side, you can enter the foyer, enter the greeting platform, watch the stream, and click on the program to find more details about the speakers and sessions. Have fun clicking through the landing page and enjoy the hybrid conference of the World Council of Religious Leaders on Faith and Diplomacy.
In the meantime, we have been joined by Maestro Jiang, the violinist accompanying us in the main hall. Welcome in the studio, Maestra.
Thank you.
Are you happy with your performance today?
I was very moved because this is a very special occasion for me to be playing for all the religious leaders and diplomats and all those who work together to make the world a more peaceful place. So I was very impressed and touched. It's a privilege to be here.
We've been hearing very beautiful music coming from you. So we're curious on how do you believe that music can support peace building? And do you have a personal experience probably that you can share with us where music contributed towards peace?
Well, I believe that human beings are a musical species because every culture, every tradition, we have a musical language, musical culture. And as a musician, we know that even when we cannot speak the same language, we can play music together. And it does not lead translation, it transcends geographical frontiers, linguistic, cultural, even religious differences. Since 2017, with my organization, with the support of the government of the Principality of Monaco, we went on a world tour where we would go to different regions of the world, raising funds to help those in need. And I must say that there are many moving moments, but perhaps for me it was the first time I went to Africa. It was in Amboseli Valley of Kenya. We went to visit a village of the Maasai people. And when we arrived, the entire village came out to greet us. And as they did, they sang. And it was the most beautiful, sophisticated music. I was very moved. I was alone with my violin. And when it was my turn, I stood in the middle of the village. Everyone was in a circle, and I played my music for them. I played Bach, I played Mozart, I played the theme of James Bond, I played Star Wars, I played the Marseillaise. And even though they've never seen a violin, they understood my music, just as I understood theirs. And these experiences elsewhere in the world too, whether it's for elderly people, for people with some maladies like Alzheimer's, or for children, I have seen through these voyages that really there is no frontier for music. And I think that music and artists can be a real active participant in building a world, in creating peace, or at least building bridges.
Thank you very much for sharing that. It was so moving and so beautifully said because it actually shows the core of peace building, and that's understanding among people.
Yes.
And as you said, music doesn't have, nationality, doesn't have religion, doesn't have anything, and it just connects people. So,
well, I think that in music, when we're listening to music, when we're playing music, we don't need translation. Like today, as all the speakers, great, I see that different participants had to listen. And I think that when I was playing, they didn't need that. And this is the fact that I think perhaps music, beyond entertainment, we can become a real active, powerful source. Musicians, we have this role. I think that musicians, I would encourage all musicians to engage with religious leaders, with diplomats, to say, how can we help to show that human beings, regardless of the region where we come from, the faith we're born into, or the choices in life, we're not that different.
I think music really speaks to the soul.
Yes, and that each interpretation is the right one.
I absolutely agree with you. So this is basically, you just showed us how to build peace. Basically, you actually told us the story of you building peace, because it's a true peace builder, connecting people through a mean that is understandable for everybody and that doesn't need translation.
And it's regardless of age as well.
Yes.
Because I during the COVID time, as we talked about a lot here, that, that the musical performance world was collapsed, basically. There were no concerts, so we were all confined in our own regions. And Monaco managed the COVID pandemic quite well, so we were actually the only country where we're playing concerts to live public. Of course, we were tested weekly and we're masked on the stage, and I was able to play for our local old people's home regularly. And because a lot of elderly people were very isolated during this time. I think that was one of the sad things about the pandemic, amongst many others.
Yes.
And that's another part where I think music can serve our community in this way, because some of the elderly people, they were no longer able to even understand the TV shows or read, but they remember the songs. So I really felt energized and motivated being here today, because I'm learning so much from everything I've heard, and I'm determined that music and musicians should become a more active participant in this part of building our world, making peace and creating more beauty.
I hope more musicians are listening to us now.
I hope
and
so
I hope
too.
that they will take your message and they will join the movement and they will actually help with their music to build bridges. But I wanted to ask you also a question, because, you come as a musician, as somebody, let's say, is outside Religions for Peace.
Yes.
So what do you think makes this organization and these events that, like this one that we are attending, so special?
Well, already the fact that I'm here. Because it was the first time that any institution like this invited someone like me to attend. I think that's already shows that this is special. And that it's inclusive in the sense that today I've met people, I've heard people from different places in the world, representing different faiths, representing different regions, different cultures. And I think that as an outsider, we tend to think, okay, this is the church, this is the temple, this is the synagogue, this is the mosque. And, can I get into this one? Can I visit this one? But here it's all together. And the fact that, I've been invited to participate, even though I am not part of any religion. And I think this is the step that we need in our world. I think that many people come from different faiths, and there are also people who are no longer believers in a particular faith. I think this is also the 21st century, and yet we're all human beings, and this is our shared world. And I think the dialogue that's happening here, even this first day, has really generated a lot of ideas to me. And I thank Religions for Peace and Rings for Peace for inviting me.
Well, we're happy that you are here with us and serenading us with your music and reminding us really that music connects all of us. But since you're here, we're also interested to know the story behind how you got here, basically. What inspired you, and what was the story behind you being a violinist?
Oh, well, as you know, with playing the instruments, sometimes we have to start very young. I was born in Beijing, in China. My parents were musicians, so they decided that I should be a musician too. I didn't really want to do this in the beginning, but now, after a few decades, I accepted. This is my destiny. How I came here, I was invited by Professor Azakarim, because I was introduced to her by Chief Rabbi David Rosen, whom I met in 2015 at the Summit of Conscience in Paris. And so since then, I've been a fan, if I may say so, of Chief Rabbi Rosen. I watched his talks. I felt really interested about how, it was about the Summit of Conscience was to prepare for the COP21. It was about environmental issues, sustainability, which I've been engaged in. And until then, I never thought about how religion and how religious leaders could participate. But of course, because as Professor Azakarim told me that most of the world, people are believers of different religions. So we have to engage everyone, whether it's to saving the planet, to promote education, or to help each other. I think the point is that we need to all work together and not to each one do our own thing. I think that it's much better as we're doing today. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to the next few days and to learn more.
Thank you very much again for sharing that with us, and we are very happy to have you, and we are very happy that you shared your path, how you came here, because it shows like the power of dialogue and the power of when people talk to each other.
Yes, yes.
The Rabbi David Rosen and Professor Karam, then you are here through different events, so you basically met each other on different occasions.
Yes. And that for them to think there's a place for a musician like myself to be here. I'm Chinese. I am, my family, since the Qing dynasty, were Christians. And I want to say that, I know that sometimes missionaries gets a very bad name. But my own family is thanks to the fact that they were Christians so early on that the women in my family, they did not have bound feet. And all the girls had the same education as the boys in the family. My grandmother, who was born in 1907, she went to university. She's a sociologist. She was a sociologist. And there were many leaders in my family, women, I can say early feminists, which at the time in China was very rare. And this is thanks to Christianity. But as I was born during the Cultural Revolution, I was not brought up in any religion. But I believe that my family, they continue to educate us in the Christian principles. And having lived in the last 20 years in the Catholic principality, which I found to be one of the most inclusive and most just society. And so my personal experience is that every religion that I've came in touch with is there to help people, to bring people together. And I think even though historically, maybe even now, there are a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of judgments based on ignorance and misunderstanding of what really faith is, and for myself as well. I think I probably have a lot of prejudices from not knowing. So being here is a real opening for me as well, and I thank everyone for this opportunity.
It's amazing to hear the personal story of Jiang. So these are the stories that we need to hear more, to hear them in the public, that people actually, hear about it. And it's so great that you share where you live now and the inclusiveness of the place. And I would have a final question for you.
Sure.
And this one is more to share with our audience. What is your favorite piece? And can you recommend our participants a violin piece for finding some kind of inner peace? Piece for a piece.
I think this is a very personal, thing for everyone. For me, in terms of classical music, I think that always go back to the foundation. I would say the music of Johann Sebastian Bach. He worked for the church. That was his job. He in Leipzig. He wrote music for the church. But he was, classical music without Bach, I think it wouldn't be what it is today. And Bach is something that can be played and transcribed from every instrument. And I think that's the universality of music too. It can be played on a rock guitar, it could be played on an Asian flute, it could be played on an organ. And I think, inner peace, and for me, I don't always listen to classical music. I listen to a lot of different music. And that again, it's not just us versus them, it's us together.
Thank you, Maestra, for sharing your story, your work, and for serenading us with your music. It has really been bringing internal peace for all of us in the conference. And we look forward to more of your performances in the next few days of the conference.
I look forward to. Thank you.
Could we just ask you to stay with us for a moment?
Sure.
So we have one announcement to make, and then we will go with our videos. So just bear with us a couple of minutes if it's possible.
Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Now, I would like to use this moment to actually announce that Deutsche Welle Academy holds an online media training with media specialists for participants of this conference. So there are slots available on the October 5th and the October 6th between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Central European Time, and you can register by sending an email to academy.mediantraining@dw.com until October 6th at 3 p.m. Central European Summer Time. The slots are limited, so register fast, because first come, first serve.
And dear streamers and Religions for Peace friends all around the world, well, maybe mostly in the Americas, Europe, and Africa, since us Asians should be asleep by now. Thank you for joining us today and for doing all of this with us and for enjoying the program with us.
But we are not done yet. We have one more piece of content for you. So make yourself comfortable, take something to drink or eat, because we did. Maybe you did it also. And lean back and listen to the two speeches that we prepared for you. First, we will hear from the mayor of the city of Lindau, Dr. Claudia Alphonse, and directly we'll be following the broadcast of the speech by Reverend Professor Dr. Ayon Sauka. The speeches were sent to us to greet our participants here in Lindau, who will soon enjoy the dinner banquet, but also to greet you in front of your screens.
But before we play all of these videos, we really would like to thank you for joining us throughout the day. This is just day one of the conference, and we'll be joining you for the next few days more. We heard that some of you had problems with the audio of the streaming. We truly apologize for this, and please know that we are doing our best to resolve this problem.
So make sure to continue dialogue via social media and online. Rewatch the sessions in case you missed them in our media library. Mingle in the virtual foyer with our participants. Become a part of the conference via the greeting platform that we introduced to you. And see you tomorrow at 8:30 Central European Summer Time for a day 2 of the Faith and Diplomacy Conference, where generations are in dialogue. So for the last time for today, action!
Liebe Asa Karam, liebe Vanessa Nakate, lieber Herr Professor Schürer, lieber Herr Schneider, liebe Teilnehmerinnen und Teilnehmer. Wir bei der Stadt Lindau freuen uns sehr, dass Sie dieses Jahr jetzt schon zum 3. Mal bei uns mit Religions for Peace zu Gast sind. Und vor allem finde ich es besonders schön, dass in diesem Jahr auch wieder Teilnehmerinnen und Teilnehmer bei uns vor Ort sein können. Sehr gerne hätte ich Sie heute persönlich hier begrüßt. Wenn das nicht der Fall ist, dann liegt es daran, dass mir sozusagen meine eigene nächste Generation dazwischen gekommen ist. Ihre Tagung fällt mit meinem Geburtstermin meines Nachwuchses zusammen. Und das ist auch der einzige Grund, warum ich Sie nicht persönlich begrüße, sonst hätte ich das sehr gerne gemacht. Ihr Tagungsthema dieses Jahr ist aus meiner Sicht absolut ansprechend und treffend gewählt, wie es kaum hätte besser sein können nach dieser Corona-Zeit, nämlich der Dialog der Generationen. Corona hat uns das wirklich vor Augen geführt, wie wichtig das ist, dass die Generationen im guten Austausch miteinander sind und auch Rücksicht aufeinander nehmen. Die junge Generation war jetzt bei der Corona-Pandemie nicht diejenige, die primär gesundheitlich gefährdet war. Aber es war diejenige, die ganz empfindliche Einschränkungen hinnehmen musste. Sowohl in der Schule und im Studium als auch im Freizeitbereich, im Vereinsleben, beim Feiern gehen und Freunde treffen. All das war kaum mehr möglich oder teilweise auch gar nicht mehr möglich. Aber die Jüngeren haben das in Kauf genommen und haben zurückgesteckt, um die vulnerableren Gruppen, gerade die älteren Menschen, insbesondere solange die noch nicht geimpft sein konnten, zu schützen und darauf Rücksicht zu nehmen. Und auch das zweite große Thema unserer Zeit, vor das sich Corona so ein bisschen davor geschoben hat, nämlich der Kampf gegen den Klimawandel, ist ein generationenübergreifendes Thema. Also die Erkenntnis, dass wir unsere Erde nur von unseren Kindern und Enkeln geborgt haben, das ist die leitende Erkenntnis, die unser Handeln jetzt und in den folgenden Monaten und Jahren prägen muss. Und es wird nur gelingen, wenn Alt und Jung sich nicht gegenseitig Vorhaltungen machen und sich dadurch auch verhaken und nicht weiterkommen, sondern indem man sich wirklich auf dieselbe Seite schlägt und entschlossen an einem Strang zieht, weil man einfach erkennt, dass es notwendig ist, jetzt das Erforderliche zu tun. Jetzt wissen wir, dass der Dialog der Generationen nicht einfach so verordnet werden kann. sondern der gelingt nur, wenn auch die Bereitschaft dazu besteht. Also wenn die Bereitschaft besteht, einander zuzuhören, aufeinander zuzugehen und auch Verständnis für die Position des anderen zu entwickeln. Diese Kultur versuchen wir bei uns in der Stadt Lindau zu fördern und zu unterstützen. Gerade im Bereich der Bürgerbeteiligung haben wir verschiedene Formate, durch die wir Jung und Alt zusammenbringen wollen, damit sich über alle Altersklassen hinweg die Menschen angesprochen und animiert fühlen, sich für ihre Stadt einzubringen und auch mitzubestimmen, wie sich diese Stadt weiterentwickelt. Ich bin überzeugt davon, dass wir hier vor Ort also unseren Teil dazu beitragen können, diesen Dialog der Generationen zu fördern. Und ich freue mich sehr, dass Sie mit Ihrer Tagung von Religions for Peace hier aus Lindau nicht nur wieder Impulse in die Welt senden, sondern dass Sie eben auch Impulse hier zu uns in die Stadt senden. Das ist für uns als Stadtgemeinschaft immer sehr befruchtend, wenn Sie hier bei uns tagen. Und gerade auch der vielbeschworene Spirit of Lindau gibt ja genau das wieder, nämlich diesen Austausch, diese Lebendigkeit, die entsteht, wenn die Tagung, die Tagungsteilnehmer und auch die Bürgerschaft hier bei uns in der Stadt miteinander in Kontakt treten. In diesem Sinne wünsche ich Ihnen jetzt eine erfolgreiche und gute Tagung, einen guten und anregenden Austausch und freue mich sehr auf die Impulse und Signale, die von Ihrer Konferenz hier ausgehen werden. Alles Gute.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and members of the World Council of Religions for Peace, friends and colleagues, peace be with you all. In 1970, at the time of the first World Conference of Religions for Peace, many in the international arena looked down on religion as something backward that is bound to disappear, and if not part of the problems to be overcome, definitely not part of the solutions that were to be found. We will remain grateful to all those who nevertheless resolved to work together for peace between religions and their contribution to peace between peoples and nations. We have come a long way since then. There are many examples on how the role of faith-based institutions is being recognized today in society at large. I will mention but one, which I think is relevant. Just recently, we had in Geneva an international dialogue on COVID-19 and consequences for global multilateral cooperation. The Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, highlighted at that occasion the role of faith communities in the response to the pandemic. He said, and I quote, "Ultimately, the best way is to keep communities healthy and safe, engaged, informed, and empowered by leaders and institutions they trust to protect themselves. And faith-based organizations are the most trusted. Religious leaders who have been engaged in interfaith dialogue and cooperation at local, regional, and international levels, sometimes in the face of tremendous pressure of religious fanatics of all sides, have contributed to such change in public discourse. These charismatic leaders and pioneers opened the door for constructive involvement of religious leaders in peace buildings or in the struggle against the root causes of the climate crisis, massive economic inequalities, and the consequences of the pandemic. In this present context, we are coming even closer together, stepping up our efforts to defeating the virus and ensuring safety and health of people everywhere. With indeed growing expectations and recognition comes also greater responsibility. People longing for peace and justice for their suffering children and families watch carefully if we take them seriously and speak out for them. Do we walk the talk? Have our own relationships with each other as religious leaders grown enough and matured so much that we are holding each other accountable on our common journey? Personally, I believe so. We do. I see us strengthening the bonds among us as members of one human family, making good use of the existing interreligious councils and newly emerging platforms for interfaith cooperation. As co-president of Religious for Peace, I am proud of our work together, of our achievements, dreams, projects, and aspirations. Working together and witnessing to our common values, we will go far and not get weary. Thank you very much.